When I look back on everything Oliver and I went through, it feels like we traveled through every season of our relationship. Summer's warmth, autumn's uncertainty, winter's chill, and now the spring of renewal. And as we sat on the terrace of a cozy cafe one sunny afternoon, I realized how much we'd grown together. Not just as individuals, but as a partnership. It wasn't easy. It never is. But the hard conversations, the compromises, and the moments of doubt had all led us here. Stronger, closer, and more attuned to each other than ever before.
You've got that look again,
Oliver said, pulling me out of my thoughts. His voice was warm, teasing.
The one where you're somewhere else entirely.
I laughed, taking a sip of my coffee. I'm just thinking.
About what?
Us, I said simply, about how far we've come. He reached across the table, his hand covering mine. It was such a small gesture, but it carried the weight of everything we'd been through.
We've done pretty well, haven't we?
We have, I agreed, smiling. But you know, I didn't think we'd make it for a while.
Neither did I.
He admitted.
But I think that's what makes this even better. We didn't give up.
He was right. We had every reason to walk away, to let our differences pull us apart. But instead, we leaned in, even when it hurt. We chose each other, again and again, even when it would have been easier not to. And that choice made all the difference. Our life together wasn't perfect, far from it. We still had our disagreements, our moments of frustration. But we'd learned how to navigate them, how to communicate without letting our emotions spiral out of control. And more importantly, we'd learned to celebrate our differences rather than trying to change each other. Take last weekend, for example. Oliver had planned a quiet day at home, complete with homemade pancakes and a stack of movies he'd been wanting to watch. But I had other ideas. A new exhibit had just opened at the art museum, and I was itching to go. Let's make a deal, I'd suggested. We do the museum in the morning, and then we come back and do your movie marathon in the afternoon. He'd raised an eyebrow, clearly skeptical.
You're really going to sit through an entire movie marathon?
For you? I'll try, I'd replied with a grin. And I had. Granted, I'd fallen asleep halfway through the second movie, but it was the effort that counted. The old me might have seen that as a compromise, a sacrifice of my precious spontaneity. But now I saw it for what it was, a way to show love, to meet Oliver halfway, just as he did for me. Our date nights had become a highlight of my week. Some were planned, like the cooking class where we learned to make sushi, and ended up eating most of the ingredients before we finished. Others were completely spontaneous, like the time Oliver surprised me with a late-night drive to watch the meteor shower. We'd parked on a quiet hillside, wrapped in blankets, and watched as the sky lit up with streaks of light.
Make a wish,
He'd said, his breath warm against my ear. I don't need to, I'd replied, snuggling closer. I've already got everything I want. Moments like that reminded me of why I fell in love with him in the first place. Oliver wasn't just my partner. He was my anchor, my sounding board, my constant in a world that often felt overwhelming. And I like to think I was the spark in his life, the one who pushed him to embrace the unknown, to see the world as a place of endless possibilities. Even our families had started to notice the change in us. My sister, ever the skeptic, had pulled me aside at a family gathering to ask,
"What's different about you two? You seem settled."
Settled? I'd echoed, raising an eyebrow. Do I look like someone who's settled? She'd laughed.
Okay, maybe settled isn't the right word, but you seem happy. Like, genuinely happy.
I am, I'd said, and for the first time in years, I truly meant it. As I sat across from Oliver at the cafe, watching him flip through the newspaper while absent-mindedly sipping his coffee, I felt a wave of gratitude for all our ups and downs, for every argument and every reconciliation, for the journey that had brought us here. I love you, you know, I said suddenly, the words spilling out before I could overthink them. He looked up, surprised but pleased.
I love you too.
It was such a simple exchange, but it felt monumental. Because it wasn't just love we were expressing, it was trust, commitment, and the promise to keep choosing each other, no matter what. Our story wasn't a fairy tale. It didn't end with a grand declaration of love or a dramatic gesture. It ended here, in the quiet moments, the shared laughter, the small but meaningful ways we showed up for each other every day. And honestly, that was better than any fairy tale I could have imagined. For a Gemini like me, who thrived on variety and excitement, the idea of stability used to terrify me. But Oliver had shown me that stability didn't have to mean stagnation. It could be a foundation, a springboard for all the adventures we wanted to have together. And as we left the cafe, hand in hand, I knew that our greatest adventure was just beginning.